Hi there, you might already know Google are on a mission to get all websites on the internet onto SSL and HTTPS, and they're gradually rolling out more and more ways to force you to make your website secure. Very soon, they'll display warnings on all websites in Chrome that aren't HTTPS. Now, you don't want yours or your client's websites flashing up scary, not secure warnings. That is definitely bad for business. So the upshot is, if you haven't already, you need to switch your WordPress website to SSL. And in this video, especially aimed at you as a non-coder, I'm going to show you exactly how to make the switch as easily as possible and avoid all the various potential pitfalls that trip so many people up. Now, switching to SSL is easier and way cheaper than it used to be. In fact, it's now free, but it's a process that you still need to be really careful of. Some problems I see all the time. You make the switch and you still don't see the secure padlock. I'll show you how to avoid that. You lose a site search engine rankings if you don't handle the switch over properly. Bad times. We'll make sure that that doesn't happen. You lose all your social counts if you have those on your site, which definitely damages your ego if nothing else. Also, people often forget to update really crucial external services that can be a bit of a problem when you or your clients realize too late in future. So in this video, I'll quickly explain what SSL is and why it's a really good idea for your sites to be on HTTPS. I'll tell you exactly what Google are doing to force you to make the switch. And I'll show you exactly how to switch your WordPress sites from HTTP to HTTPS really easily, avoiding all the typical gotchas. This will be aimed at you as a non-coder who uses WordPress with tools like the Elementor page builder. Well, SSL stands for Secure Sockets Layer, but all you really need to know is that if a web page is using SSL, then when you visit it, it's HTTPS in the address bar, not HTTP, and you see a nice padlock which gives visitors to your sites that warm, fuzzy feeling of safety. If a page is using SSL, meaning its URL starts with HTTPS, then all data coming to and from the site is encrypted. Not just passwords and credit card details, but all the content and code. Now, there are loads of good reasons to have your entire website on SSL, even if you're not transferring sensitive data. And I'm not just talking just because Mr. Google is telling you to do so, although I admit that is quite a kick up the jacksie to get on with it. But data transfer to and from your site can't be intercepted or modified. So for example, when you log into WordPress, your username and password is normally just sent as plain text that anyone can read if they want to. That's not good, is it? SSL provides a huge level of trust and credibility in your website generally. You know, visitors, they see that padlock and they have a better user experience because of it. And a very big reason is actually performance and speed. If your site uses SSL, then it automatically runs on HTTP2 if your host supports it. I won't go into what HTTP2 is in this video, but just know that it's way faster than boring old HTTP1. Sites not on SSL simply cannot use HTTP2 at all, meaning you lose out on a lot of page load speed benefits. So Google are out to make sure all websites, yes, including yours, are on SSL as soon as possible. It started back in 2014 when they announced that secure sites would have a bit of a rankings boost. Even back then, they said that their intention was to have HTTPS everywhere as soon as possible. Starting in October 2017, any pages containing form fields will trigger a not secure warning. And that's not just password or credit card fields. We're talking things like search boxes and blog comment forms or asking for your name in a support form. Now this is just in Google Chrome, but seeing as Chrome is used by 60% of web users, that's a big, big deal. And pretty soon, likely 2018, Google will eventually show not secure on all HTTP pages. So even if you have no forms on your pages at all, your website could still be flagged as unsafe in the Chrome browser. Ouch. So here's how to switch a WordPress site to HTTPS, aimed specifically at non-coders like you. And this is the easiest method I can think of while still making sure that you do it the right way. So to start with, here's an overview of what we're going to do. Firstly, we'll acquire and install a free SSL certificate so that your site can run on HTTPS. Then we'll switch WordPress to use HTTPS and we'll redirect all the old HTTP pages to your shiny new secure HTTPS versions instead. We'll then update any hard-coded links to the old, non-secure pages that are in your content, your blog posts, your pages. We'll then fix the dreaded mixed content error that stops your lovely new secure site having a padlock in the address bar. We'll fix some settings in your CDN if you're using one, don't worry if you're not. And finally, we'll fix problems with external services like recovering your social counts, Google Analytics, Google Search Console, XML sitemaps, things like that. I've actually made the switch process easier for you by making a handy checklist for you to follow. I know, I'm too good to you. Head over to designbuildweb.co/SSL. Pop your email in the box on that page and I'll whiz the checklist over to you. Alright, lots to cover. Let's crack on. So for your site to use SSL, it needs an SSL certificate. It used to be that if you wanted your site on SSL, you had to pay for a certificate for at least $100 or so every year. Now you can still pay for a certificate if you want to, but the easiest and free way these days, and we all love free, is via a service called Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt provide free SSL certificates in an aim to just remove any excuses for making your site secure. You get your free certificate via your host control panel, so your host has to actually support Let's Encrypt. It's not something you can set up yourself. Now, two of my favourite hosts support it, SiteGround and Flywheel. It's likely your hosting company does too. As an example, SiteGround use cpanel like many other hosting companies, so you should just be able to log into your cpanel, go to Let's Encrypt and follow the instructions. Just choose the domain that you want from the list. Flywheel have their own beautiful custom control panel, but you can easily get your SSL certificate for your domain there for free. And even if your host doesn't seem to support Let's Encrypt, just ask them. One of my clients asked his hosting company to sort it out for him, and they did, even though that they actually don't advertise support for Let's Encrypt yet. So that should now have your SSL certificate installed for your domain, which means you can actually visit your pages with HTTPS on the front of them right now. But that's just the start of it. We now need to tell WordPress the site is now on HTTPS, and we also need to redirect the old HTTP URLs to the shiny new HTTPS versions instead. Now, this is especially important for search engines like Google. If you don't do this bit right, they won't understand that all your site's URLs have now changed, which can cause big issues with your search engine rankings. And before we do anything else, there are three things you need to take care of. Number one, clear any caches that you might have running with caching plugins, and then deactivate those caching plugins or caching that you might have running on the server. You can turn it back on once this is all completed. Number two, if you use a CDN, a content delivery network like KeyCDN or CloudFlare, I'd advise for now turning that off on your site as well. It's a separate issue that I'll come to later. And then, number three, take a backup. I use the Updraft Plus plugin to back up my WordPress sites, but whatever you use, backup, backup, backup. Okay, you only have to do it once, but I'm just telling you 3 times so it sinks in. You've taken a backup, right? Right, there are a few ways of achieving this step if you're a non-coder and you aren't comfortable messing about on the server. Well, first, if you're with a host that has a Force SSL option, then it's best to use that option. For example, SiteGround have a plugin called SG Optimizer, and within that, there's an option to force HTTPS. So you can just click that, and your website traffic is redirected to a secure HTTPS connection. You might also have to go to Settings, General, and change both your URL settings here to HTTPS, like this. But if that's already sorted, then great. I'll pop a link under this video to a support tutorial on SiteGround's site. If you're on Flywheel, they have a Force SSL option too. This also redirects all traffic to the new HTTPS version at the server level, which is perfect. Again, check in Settings, General, and change both URLs to HTTPS if they haven't been changed already. If they're greyed out and you can't change them, then just get in touch with Flywheel support and ask them. Don't worry though, everything will still be working properly. They do the redirects before this settings stage anyway. I'll also stick a link below to an article on Flywheel's site with more details. Check with your own host to see if they have a similar option to Force SSL. Just be aware that if your site is loading in content that's not secure, That means that there are links in your code or content that are referencing insecure HTTP URLs still, like images or adverts. Then that content won't load anymore. So you might have disappearing images, for example. We will fix that next. For now though, if your host doesn't offer a Force SSL option, then you have to use a WordPress plugin instead. And if that's you, then simply install and activate the really simple SSL plugin. This also changes your WordPress site URL settings, and it also redirects old HTTP URLs to the new HTTPS ones. And it also does some clever checks on how your server's set up, just so that it sets things up the best way for you. Just don't install really simple SSL if you've turned on a Force SSL option in your hosting control panel or in a plugin provided by your hosting company. You don't want two lots of redirects happening at the same time. So it's either the hostings option or the really simple SSL plugin option, not both. There's a small problem with how we've done things so far. The Force SSL solutions from either your hosting or the plugin, they only actually do those rewrites on the fly. So the actual URLs in the database still remain as the old HTTP ones. So for example, any hard-coded links or images in your content will still be the old HTTP. Now, it's not a problem as such. Your site is still on SSL, those links do get redirected, but it's much better to change the actual URLs in the database to the new HTTPS versions too, not just redirect them. Redirecting them all the time is slower and prone to problems in future. Well, the answer is now to run the Better Search Replace plugin. Once it's installed, the settings are under Tools here. All you do is you put the old homepage URL here. So I'll pretend my old URL was http www.example.com. That's it. No forward slashes on the end. Then in the Replace With field, I'll put the new HTTPS version. And the way I'll do that is actually to copy the first one, paste it in here, and then stick an S on the end of the HTTP. That's it. And I only recommend copy and pasting because it just avoids you making any silly typos. Select all the tables in the database. Leave the case insensitive and replace GUIDs boxes unchecked. You can do a dry run first, which just simulates the find and replace process, or you can untick that to do the actual run. Make sure you have a backup. Now, that will now change all mentions of the old HTTP URLs in the entire database to the new HTTPS ones. And that's much better, and it'll fix a lot of mixed content issues, which we'll come to shortly. Now, if you use Elementor, listen up. There's another very important task in the same vein as this. Come to Elementor and Tools, then the Replace URL tab. Then in Update Site Address here, the same as with the Better Search Replace plugin, you pop your old HTTP address here and your new HTTPS version here. And again, copy and paste it in and then just add the S. It just avoids any problems with typos. Now this is essential. You will, if you don't do this, you will very likely get mixed content warnings, things like missing images in Elementor, as well as other potential problems too. Now, if at this point you visit the pages on your site and the padlock is on, congratulations. Pour yourself a celebratory beverage, take the rest of the day off. Tell your boss I said it was okay. You've earned it. However, if you find that you don't have the padlock yet, or you have missing or broken content on your pages like missing images, then, my friend, you likely have mixed content problems. This basically means that while your site is trying its best to be all secure, in your site's source code, you're still calling in maybe images or CSS files or JavaScript using an HTTP link, not HTTPS. And because your page is calling in insecure content, you don't win the padlock prize. So examples of this might be links to background images in CSS files, links to outdated scripts, links pulling in adverts from a different server, things like that. All right, to fix this, well, first thing, go to whynopadlock.com, pop your site's URL in the box, and it'll tell you what the problems are on your page so that you know where to look to fix them. An alternative is this SSL checker from JitBit, which actually crawls up to 200 pages on your site and then reports on what's causing the mixed content problems. And finally, you can also try installing the SSL Insecure Content Fixer plugin, which helps find and fix these issues too. However, if you previously installed Really Simple CSS, you won't need this plugin because Really Simple CSS will have done some of this for you. And honestly, if you can't fix it yourself, especially if you're not very techy, sometimes it's best just to hire in some help to get the job done. And at this stage, if you're happy all is well, you can turn any caching plugins back on. Now, this next stage only applies to you if you use a CDN or content delivery network. The upshot is your CDN URL must also be HTTPS too. So for example, I use KeyCDN, and when I switched my site to SSL, I had to install a free Let's Encrypt SSL certificate in my KeyCDN control panel as well, so that my CDN subdomain URL, which is assets.designbuildweb.co, was also HTTPS. If you don't do this and your CDN URL is still using HTTP, then you'll still have mixed content problems. Now, I don't know which CDN you'll be using, if any. So if you are using one, it's best to check your own CDN's documentation and find out what you need to do. And it's why I suggested earlier that I think it's best to turn the CDN off on your site until you've sorted this out. Now, if just a special mention for CloudFlare, if you're using CloudFlare, it can sometimes cause a few other issues you just need to be aware of. If you use the Really Simple SSL plugin, then there's an article from them about CloudFlare that I'll link to under the video. And if you're on SiteGround, they also have a support article about CloudFlare too. Again, I'll pop the link under the video. At this point, your site should now be on HTTPS and everyone is happy, including Mr. Google. It's always a good idea to keep him happy. Now, this final stage is an important one though, and one that so many people forget until much later, when they realise that certain things are broken. So you need to make sure that you update any external services you use, and there are a few important ones. Pay attention. First job is to sort Google Search Console, or Webmaster Tools as it used to be called, if you use it that is, and you really should. So create a brand new profile for your HTTPS site, separate to your existing HTTP profile. Resubmit your XML sitemap if you have one. Remember, your sitemap will now have all your HTTPS URLs in it, not the old HTTP ones. If you're using an SEO plugin like Yoast or the SEO framework, they automatically create an XML sitemap for you. So you just grab the URL, pop it into Search Console. Also, if a disavow request was ever submitted for this site in the existing profile, then you must re-download the existing disavow text file and then resubmit it to the new HTTPS profile. If you don't know what a disavow file is, don't worry, you can ignore this bit. It's honestly not something to be proud of. Alright, once that's done, you can safely delete the old HTTP profile in Search Console. Next, make sure to log into the Google Analytics account for this site, or whatever analytics package you're using. And in the settings under Admin, change the site URL from HTTP to HTTPS. You'll have one under Property Settings and also one under View Settings, and you may have several views to change. Unlike Search Console, don't create a new analytics profile or anything, just update and save. Once you've done that, you can now reconnect your analytics account back up to Search Console again, but this time to your new HTTPS profile. So go into Property Settings, then scroll down to relink Search Console up here. I also like to add an annotation to analytics, which is just a note on the date that the site moved to SSL so that you can spot any issues in future. Okay, that's your analytics data sorted. Now, if you use a plugin like the brilliant Social Warfare for social media sharing icons, then you might have social counts like these. Big problem though, once you move to HTTPS, you'll lose these counts. Reset to 0 across the board. And that's really not great for the old ego, is it? So you need to actively recover them. With Social Warfare, to do this you need the Pro version, but it's very inexpensive and worth every penny. I'll pop a link to it below. Then, in the plugin settings under Advanced, you activate Share Recovery here, and then set your previous connection protocol to HTTP. Not HTTPS, you need to choose HTTP here. Then save changes, and that's it. Also, if you use Disqus for comments instead of the WordPress comment system, then you'll also need to recover those as well. I'll stick a link below to Brian Jackson's excellent tutorial showing you how to do it. Also, make sure you update the URL to HTTPS in the site's various social profiles like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And finally, don't forget to update the site's URL in the settings in any other external tools that the site uses. So for example, in email marketing systems like MailChimp, split testing tools, keyword rank trackers, etc. So that's how to switch a WordPress site over to SSL. If you need a handy checklist to follow to make this even easier, hop over to designbuildweb.co/SSL, pop your email in the box on that page, and I'll send it over to you. It's not a difficult process really, but it's something that you have to take your time over to do it carefully and not miss any steps. Good luck with the switch. If you found that video helpful, do me a big favour please. Give me a thumbs up on the video below and leave me a comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you'll get to know when I've got new videos out like this. Now my email subscribers always get my very best stuff. So to get in on the action, go to designbuildweb.co/mybeststuff, pop your email address in there and I'll keep you informed. See you soon.